You're listening to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, and this is episode number 84. Hi, friends. I'm Curtis J. Washington. And look, the purpose of this podcast is simple. We are constantly being bombarded with messages like, we could be happy if only we had a particular thing, or we could be successful if only we made X amount of dollars, or we could be at peace if only so-and-so loved me. These messages are not only disempowering, but also they are simply not true. This is because it's not about where you are and where you want to be. It's about who you are right now and who you wish to become. Once you know what the ideal you looks like, then you will automatically start becoming aware of what steps you can take right now to move in the right direction. And the goal of this podcast is to help you look within and discover all the love, all the beauty, and all of the unlimited potential that you already possess, and for you to set it free for you and for the world to see. Welcome to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast, where we explore practical and actionable steps that you can take to help you manifest the greatness that you already possess deep inside. And today we have two guests for the first time on the podcast. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have Jamie and Jacklyn Purvis. And let's start with Jamie. So Jamie has 35 years of real estate and business experience, including his role as the #1 real estate office team leader in Canada. With a passion for coaching and a focus on mindset and performance, Jamie has helped thousands of individuals unlock their true potential. And Jamie's daughter, Jacklyn, left her thriving career in advertising to pursue her passion for building a business with purpose. As an expert in growth strategy, she focuses on mindset, goal setting, and establishing habits to help people achieve their dreams. She's trained in Neurolinguistic Programming, Hypnotherapy, and mental and emotional release. Together, Jamie and Jacklyn are the father-daughter duo behind the Be, Do, Have movement. And their aim is to create a movement of success-driven people and empower them to have the courage to follow their dreams and live their best lives. Jacklyn and Jamie, welcome to the Manifest Your Greatness podcast.
Thank you so much, Curtis. We're so excited to be here today and for you making the time to have us on your show.
Well, just happy that you're both here. So, we've had a conversation, an opportunity to have a conversation prior to the interview today. And, of course, you both know that I'm a huge fan of the Be Do Have movement. I've actually had, as we talked about before, an episode on what I'd refer to as the Be Do Have mindset. I love it. I think it is so critical for people to understand this. So I just wanted to kick this off by asking if you could perhaps explain what is the Be, Do, Have movement.
So we've started by that method and approach that it's flipping it on its head, right? What we're typically taught in school, I like to look at it like this. What we're typically taught is we pick a goal. So it's the opposite, right? We're working towards what we want to have. So we pick a goal and then we're constantly hustling. I like to look at it like we're on a hamster wheel, essentially. Then all of a sudden we become successful. And we have really flipped our approach and created an entire method that we now coach off of to help people initially work on their beliefs, their attitudes, their identity, so that we can create that lasting change, so that it does make a bigger difference, a bigger impact. And a great example of this too is you don't have to have $1 million to be a business owner. You're a business owner the second you start with a business and you start taking those actions. So we really like to work on that identity level first to help create that long-term goal that much faster.
Excellent. Yeah, and it's so true that it is really about how you look at what your own resourcefulness, right? And we often are so many times told that we have to get somewhere in order to feel as if we've arrived, or that we've accomplished something. And I love the whole turning it on its head, and focusing more on who we really are, and what is it within us that we want to develop first, before we start trying to go out and you know act as if we have marching orders to go and get somewhere. Always best to kind of know kind of what our inner compass is telling us first. So I think that it makes so much sense. So I'm really just happy that that the Be Do Have movement is really out there, and getting this in front of more people, because I think it's so crucial that people understand that it has to come from the inside, and it's hard to put a flag out there and say this is where you need to go if you really don't know if you're aiming at the right flag, right?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, Curtis, I saw this way, first of all, myself for years. I was caught in the doing, like just go, 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 go.
yeah,
And being a very competitive person, I would outwork everybody, whether it was sports or in business. And you just get exhausted, and you realize there's a saturation point, you run out of time.
yeah,
And as I transitioned from being a real estate agent and being on a team into leadership, saw the pattern in everybody else as well. And then that's what we're taught, right? Like, as Jacklyn mentioned, you set a goal, and when you go do it and you do all those activities and you hit all these milestones along the way, then you're going to have success.
right.
So it's this belief that is impressed upon us that just go, don't even think too much, just get a general idea, but just go and go, 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 go. And we live that way in the world. I find it's just, more ideas. And I know for myself, for many years, I wasn't even applying what I knew, but I kept reading books, I kept taking courses and just gathering information. And that's when I made the decision, and it was a conscious decision, to say, okay, I've got to stop this because it's insanity.
Yeah,
And as I stopped it, I realized, okay, I really need to focus on the me first. Like, what do I want? Get clear there. And the more energy I put into that, then you do things different. Because if we keep doing things based on what we've already done in the past, it's habitual. We're going to keep getting the same results. We might get a little incremental growth, but we don't get that quantum growth until we shift our identity and our mindset and our beliefs.
right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting that you mentioned that whole that go 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 mindset, and how that's been treated, and it's been something out there that people think is kind of like a badge of honor, right? That you're always busy and you're always trying to make something happen. But it's interesting for me personally. I used to be a consultant. I was focusing a lot more on
Mhm.
helping businesses. And one of the things that really that I noticed over time, that it took me a while to figure out why it was getting under my skin and what I'm supposed to do with it. But it was that we would get together with, the business leaders, and we would talk about a plan, and we talk about the resources available. We talk about where we're planning to go and how it's all going to come together, and the value of it, and the bottom line, and this and that. And then, the decision makers would be like, yes, yes, let's do this. Let's do this. This sounds great. I see that this is going to make things so much better for us. And then, everything is in place. They have a project manager. They're moving forward. I come and check back in on them in a couple of weeks, and I say, so how's it going? And the project manager says, well, we're working on it. We just, we haven't really gotten where we thought we were going to go. And then this was a recurring theme. I was starting to notice that even when I was working with individuals, and there was only one decision maker, and I was having conversations, and we were putting these plans together, and everybody was excited. And then I check in, and they'd be like, well, yeah, I know there's value in it, Curtis. I know this is what we need to do, but other things kind of came up. And then what I started realizing finally over time is that when you're trying to help people get somewhere, but they don't know who they are, it's kind of like a losing battle, right? Or at least you're wasting a lot of breath, because if you don't understand kind of what their true motivations are, how can you actually help them get to where you think they want to go, if perhaps that's not what's in their own best interest? And that's what really got me into life coaching. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because that whole go, go, go attitude is something that it's been taught to us, is something that we need to keep doing, and that it's a great thing. But at the same time, it can really blur your own values, and it can blur your own, what your inner feelings and your insight is trying to tell you, because you're, thinking you got to stay busy, and it can be blinding that way. So I completely agree, Jamie.
Yeah, so you nailed it, right? You saw it, right? So even though people set these goals for themselves, there's a block, and these blocks show up pretty quick. And if they, first of all, don't even think they can achieve it, then there's doubt right out of the gate. Well, if there's doubt out of the gate, you're not going to achieve that success. And then we self-sabotage, we find reasons to be distracted, and then here we go, we're back where we started. So yeah, you lived it too. So it's out there, it's prevalent, it's just everywhere.
So true, so true. So it sounds like, so I know Jamie and Jacklyn, both of you had so much going on. It sounds like you both had these professional careers, and you at some point kind of figured, you know what, I want to do something different, and I want to approach things differently. I want to kind of go inside and find out a little bit more about what is meaningful work for me. And that is so great. And I guess my question is, how did you decide to team up to do this? How did that come about?
Good question. And it really started because we got into the space because we wanted it for ourselves initially. So we went down the self-development road. I'll share my story here, but I was in the advertising world and space, and I was not loving it. I had a great culture in one environment, went to another location, and it just wasn't there. So I was now operating in this flight and freeze sort of state. That's where I was finding myself constantly. So I went into the world. I actually took one of Jamie's programs when he initially started this one program, and I was a client. So I got to go through that transformation for myself and putting in the work and investing in that program to initially change and shift how I was thinking. So from that point, we then progressed to, I was supporting him a little bit more from a time perspective, and then was like, hey, I actually hate where I'm at right now. And I want to apply everything I've learned now. I want to change careers completely. I want to get into a field where I can help other people that felt how I felt at that point, find solutions. So we got to a point where I was like, let's team up. Let's help as many people as possible. So it really started from us practicing the craft we're now teaching. And it just, timing really worked out.
For me, Curtis, running the real estate office, we were very successful, and it got to a point, I always say this, I lost the loving feeling. And I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't enjoy all components of it. I enjoyed working with our agents. I enjoyed helping them succeed, building their businesses, thriving. I enjoyed that piece of it. Our office had grown at that point. We were almost 230 people. So I didn't enjoy everything with it. And I just remember coming home to my wife saying, I just, again, can't do this anymore. And it happened a few times in my life, and I've always had a great partner. My wife is an incredible cheerleader, and she's like, if we're going to be good, like, yeah, just go for it. And I made the decision it was time to go, and wound my way out of that position, and walked away from an industry that I'd been in my entire life, and never saw this working with Jacklyn. That wasn't even on the radar. That was a byproduct of me making the decision, stepping into this. And that's what, one of the things we love to talk to people about too, is you're not going to have it all figured out. You just focus on the next step, right? And the next step and the next step. And that led us to, Jacklyn was supporting me with marketing, and I again came home to my wife, and I think I realized beyond my daughter, here's this powerful young professional. I saw her in a different light, and I approached her, and she's like, well, that's good. I was thinking about the same thing. And then we just made this decision, you know what, let's create a mission, and just, let's go change lives around the world and model it for them. And that's really that's our passion. We just want to see people grow and thrive and become the best they can be, and follow those dreams that sometimes get suppressed because we get caught up in living.
Yeah.
And that's a key piece, what Jamie just said there, that I wanted to highlight for anyone listening after. It's the ability to change whatever you're not happy with. Like, I think sometimes we get stuck in where we are. Just listen to the conversations around you too. Like, people like to complain about where they're at, but they feel this fear against changing that. But it's always possible. So we just want to put that light out there that if something isn't feeling good in your life, you have the opportunity to shift it. And that's a really empowering state to hold.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And, just the media in general, right? I think that there's such the marketing and the advertising that we receive from big business and even from influencers on social media that trying to show us and persuade us that they know what we need to be happy, and that they've got the cure. This is, you got to do more of this, you need more of that, and then you end up in the feeling that you should be doing more, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And one of the things that in the coaching program that I attended, the founder always said that stop shooting on yourself.
Exactly.
Don't shoot on yourself. You're putting someone else's, mind, opinion, and their values on top of yours, and you're not giving yourself an opportunity to bring out what you want, what you wish would happen. And it's so hard to separate that when you're being bombarded constantly with this information and people telling you that they know what's best for you and what will make you happy. And I was just curious that's all at the core, it sounds like, right? Is this understanding of who you are. And I was just really curious to get a better understanding of what kind of methods, or how do you get your clients or the people or the teams that you're supporting to kind of get back into that conversation with themselves, and to actually start to bring out and become more aware of who they are, and to take that step back and kind of reframe.
So where I focus is primarily on the life coaching side of things, and Jamie's on the business coaching. So from a life coaching perspective, we're both following the same method here. Because a big piece of it, like, to start off, is what do you want in the first place? Yeah. I think on average, most people don't know how to answer that question. I personally know, even when I started on this journey, like, that's an intimidating question. It's big. And if you don't know the answer, it's like, where do I start? What does that mean? In what area? It can be really scary. So a lot of the initial stages of what we do in this method is clarifying and discovering what that is, or what it could be. And allowing people to get into that zone where you can imagine again, or you can expand again, and just think creatively again. Mm-hmm. I know, and I'll let Jamie speak on this, but I'm sure even from a business coaching perspective, that can be tricky, because we get stuck on like what we've done or what we think we're capable of doing. Mm-hmm. So a huge piece to this method that we focus on is that discovery of where are we going? What do we want? And a little bit of that strategy to get started, like, okay, what are some initial steps we can take? And then the core that we're focusing on is really, what beliefs and limiting beliefs can we work through? Mm. What's the routines and rituals that we can start creating now for ourselves and showing up with daily? How do we manage our emotions throughout this process? Mm. All of these things are something that we're working on constantly, and it's just based on where they're at and what's showing up. But that's a lot of that being and identity shifting piece that is intertwined with those habits, those strategies, those steps that we're taking. What do you think, Jamie, from a business perspective on that?
For me, Curtis, a lot of times people come for business, like they're very successful already. They're maybe frustrated. They're feeling stuck. They want more. And they come for business, and ironically, we end up back into life, right?
Right.
Business grows to the extent we do. So if we're not growing, we're just, again, repetitively living the same story over and over, dragging our past with us into the future. So I like to slow people down. I like to just get them to calm down, surrender, get into the flow. Those are two big words that I had no clue what they meant for a very long time. I heard them, they meant zero to me. It was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Afraid of missing out. Like, let's go. I, beat the other guy to it. And the reality was, as we can calm down, I want people to get to a space where they can start to hear themselves connected to that intuition. And that question, Jacklyn, we always have struggled with it. She used to really resist it. And I resisted it. Like, I don't know what I want. I just want this and just go. And then I realized I didn't even want what I was chasing for a while. And when you can slow down and just listen to yourself, follow that inner voice, and then take a breath and just take a step forward. We all have patterns of success. We've all achieved something in life. We all had a dream where we didn't know how we were going to get it, whether it was a bike or a car or a house, going to a certain college. We had a dream and we ended up there. We didn't, again, as I mentioned, you don't need to know how it's going to work out, but when we get really connected to our intuition, it will guide us. It's our inner guidance system. And it will, now we get into serendipity, we get into the law of cause and effect. When we start to put mental energy into deciding what we want, that's the first step of bringing everything to us to help us get there. The right people show up, the right opportunities show up, and it's usually from left field. We're not expecting it. And as you start to realize, like, this is by design, we can literally create our life by design. It's so powerful because now we really just have to get clear and get focused on using our imagination, get clear on what you want. Then I build out a 1-year business plan. Then we chunk it down to 90 days. And then we get focused on 90 days with some metrics, always circling back to them growing and being more than they've been in the past, building that identity, constantly making sure I keep them between the lines and we don't revert back to that old conditioned thinking.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting that I love the approach, first of all, and I what you mentioned about surrender and to in the flow. Those are two words that I recently have really started to incorporate as well, and it took me quite a long time to figure out how to interpret those words and actually to change the connotations that I had associated with them, because when I thought of surrender, I thought that meant giving up. And then I started to realize over time, no, it doesn't mean that. It means more of just becoming aware of the situation and stop pushing against things so hard, and to be more aware of what's really going on and aware of yourself and aware of the opportunities that you may be so frustrated about that you're not able to, you may be so frustrated about how things are going, you're not even seeing the opportunities because it really shuts down your ability to observe. And so I think I completely agree. And you were also mentioning about that, kind of taking a step back and breaking it down into chunks. And so many people get caught up in the goal, and they can feel either overwhelmed by this big audacious goal that they have, or they can feel that they are a certain age, so therefore it's too late, or they have this particular role, so therefore it's impossible, or it's not for me. And I think what you were just saying about, taking that step back and surrendering, and then of course getting into the flow from that point. But the surrendering piece gives you an opportunity, right, to be a little bit more objective about where are you and what do you really want, and what are you letting define who you are based on, circumstances, or based on, what else is happening in your environment, and where can you start and where can you change that? So I think that's brilliant. I think it's so helpful too.
I think what you're describing there is that limiting belief piece, right? Like, I think that's really just fears, or the idea of imposter syndrome, or thinking I need to perfect everything before we do it. And so often we tend to operate out of limiting beliefs and without the recognition that it's even happening in the first place.
And
Yeah.
it's a constant journey. Like I'm sure you feel the same way, Curtis. Like here we are,
Hmm.
we're living this. I like to model things for people
Yeah.
and experiences and the feelings. And Jacqueline and I actually just before this podcast, we put about an hour and a half, 2 hours into just our next year. Reliving, we like to do it every quarter, reliving where do we want to be a year from now? And we have this big, crazy, audacious goal. And it's overwhelming, right, Jacqueline? Jacqueline's like, oh my God, like where do we start? And we just chunk it down. Okay, the next 90 days, this is our focus. This is what we want, and it's beyond where we are. And I don't care. I'm going to buy into this. If I'm teaching it, I better believe it. So I'm going to buy into this, right? And I'm just going to put it out there. This is what I want. And now step into being that person, thinking different, being uncomfortable and still moving forward.
Yeah.
Like I'm uncomfortable every day. If I'm not growing, I'm not going to be uncomfortable. So I better be uncomfortable every day.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to know, like we're all going through this at different
Oh yeah.
stages in life. And I like to say every single person's an imposter because they're striving to get somewhere they've never been. So get over it. Let's take a step back and just move. Let's move forward, little tiny steps, one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And then, like you were both saying before, that that feeling, that fear, that imposter syndrome, getting over that, and really understanding that everyone is imperfect, that everyone has something to strive for, and that it's a process. Like you were saying, it's not something. I it reminds me of like a tightrope walker. If you're looking from a distance, you going and looking at them and saying, wow, look at this balance. It's amazing. How are they doing that? They're just, standing on this or they're walking on it. And then if you look more carefully, you'll see that they're constantly moving. They're always making minor adjustments. You just can't see it. And that's what this whole thing is about, right? It's like there is no destination in the sense that you're going to get there and everything is all of a sudden going to make sense. It's you're going to get there and you're going to go, aha, I got this, and then you go, wait a minute, now I have no idea what to do with this, and then it's a constant process. And people get so caught up in trying to get somewhere that they can miss all of the things that are happening and all the opportunities in front of them, and the opportunities to grow and to better themselves and be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. That makes so much sense.
And what you just said there too, it's that perspective shift.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to get to the end to be happy. How can we be happy throughout the process? If we're just waiting to that end goal, chances are it's not even going to bring the happiness in the first place. So how can we bring more of what we want to life in our day-to-day practices?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
be happy, right, Curtis? So going back to that be
Yeah.
state, like what is that? Like I don't need anything to make me happy. I'm either happy or not. So it's my choice.
Yeah.
The weather doesn't affect me. Why should it? I look at what's going on in the world. I hear what's going on in the world. I don't watch the news, but it comes to you from various sources. So you're going to get clear and you're going to hear about things. But the one thing I can do is protect my mindset. And as long as I'm within a range of my mobility and my head's not bouncing all over the place, I'm moving in the direction of my goal. And that's the journey. It's just it's simple. It's not easy, and it's one step at a time. And creating and removing these beliefs that drive us. That everyone has a belief about something that is the way it's supposed to be, until you start peeling it back and thinking. So changing your belief, you're becoming more, you're thinking different. You start to realize, I'm assuming like I did, like a lot of what I believe was impressed upon me, my family, school, education, culture. So have I ever thought about anything or created a belief myself? Right. And I think as we start to slow down and realize that, okay, we have the opportunity now, I can take everything that's got me to where I am, be grateful for it. I'm blessed to have experienced it, all the good, all the bad. It's just perspective. And now I make a decision. Where am I moving forward to? And then get clear on that. And that's what empowers Jacqueline and I when we're meeting people and watching them just start with a dream, and then feeling the resistance and the tears and all the stuff that comes with it. And then you see them evolve and this confidence comes out.
Yeah.
And now they're being and living this person that they've imagined. And how
Yeah.
long is it going to take? Who knows? That's the one thing we can't control is the time. We all want it now, right? An instant gratification world. The reality is every time we think different, make a different decision, take a different step, we're one step closer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and like you said, I think one of the things that it's always great to remind ourselves is that had we not taken the journey we had taken, who knows when we would have realized that we needed to make some of these changes, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, because I mean, I think of it as if when we were my the way I feel is that we were raised, at least I feel I was raised I was raised taught to do in order to become. And it was kind of like I was giving over my autonomy to determine what would make me happy to someone else who claimed they knew, or
Mhm.
a structure that claimed they knew what was best for me. So we're going along, we're going along, we're going along. We're learning these things, we're learning these things, and of course, what we do with it is all up to us, So either way, that's the process that we were raised in, and then we joined the corporate world, and we think that, okay, I was doing what I was doing because I was told that I should get a good job and go to college, get a good job, whatever it is. I've got that, so things are going well. I must be doing it right. This is what everyone has said. This is success looks like this. Things are going well, and then you start having questions about, is this what I really want to do? And then the corporation comes along and says, we know what's best for you. You're doing a great job. Keep working hard. We'll keep promoting you, and we'll keep giving you raises. So you think I must be
Here's more
doing the right
money. Here's
thing.
more money.
That's right. That's right. So everybody is saying the structure, the system is saying that I'm doing well, and coming, and then eventually you get to the point. Some of us sooner, some of us later. Some of us are probably still battling with it now. It's a never-ending thing, as we were talking about before. You're never there, but having that conversation with yourself and going, "Is this who I am?" Right? And that's why I really love the Be Do Have movement, because it's something. It really takes what I think should be the starting point. It's who are you? What do you enjoy? What motivates you? What lights your spark? What are you interested in? And let's try to figure out what that means. When I think in a lot of cases, it seems like either the corporation is trying to convince us, or the school system is trying to tell us, or whatnot. And not that any of this is bad, but that can really kind of skew our own perspective of where we're trying to go and what we think is uh, on our path, or should be on our path in terms of what we'd like to achieve. So,
And I
yeah,
think if
And
you're
it,
happy doing what you're doing, you know what? You're exactly where you need to be.
yeah,
So it's not about any of this, right? It's just when you start to get a feeling and you start to sense that something's off, it's listening to that.
yeah,
That's the sign, right? And it's listening to it and being in a position to step back and say, okay, am I going to keep doing this
mm,
and not be happy about it? And then the more you do it, the more unhappy you get. And now we're in a vicious cycle, and we get trapped with the money. I get it, and the promotions, and then you got the mortgages and the car payments and education, and now it's like there's no option, right? Because now it's like I wish I could, but I can't. Good for you, but I can't.
yeah,
And that's not a good place to be.
yeah,
I was actually in a conversation with some friends yesterday, and that was literally the conversation. It was like, okay, well, you can stay here and then you get a raise to this, but the person talking wasn't happy in the first place. There was zero happy. It was like pure complaints and just genuinely unhappy.
mm,
And there seemed to be no, it was interesting just to watch because I could tell there was no thought process around the idea that like you are the creator, each of us are of our own lives.
mm,
That option of choice, that option to take a different step, to try strive for something else outside of this box that we all are sort of in our own ways, right? That we're taught to be in. And yeah, it's interesting. And there's also such opportunity in that. And we really just want to put that out there that we can take different paths. It's just a choice, and it's just next step in front of the other.
yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And that next step, right? That's something that I talk about as well. As like we were saying before. It's easy to get discouraged or have that fear well up inside you when you're thinking of how far the journey may be to get to whatever this next milestone may be that you've set for yourself, and breaking that into these steps, and the process, as you had mentioned as well, Jamie, the process, right? It's a process that we're always kind of going through, and I was just curious, using the be do have movement and kind of superimposing that on the process. I was just curious if maybe either of you could share maybe some concepts or some modalities, kind of with the be do have mindset, using that concept. Like, what would be some ways that you are kind of helping to keep people on this process and believing in the process and moving forward?
I have a specific one I'd like to share just in case, because we did talk a little bit about those beliefs, right? If we have a fear or something that's showing up, and we call this our belief guide. So
Yeah.
a great process to go through this, as anyone, just as you notice fears, let's say fears showing up in your life, is you just take time to reflect and get detailed on what that exact fear is. We're going to flip it. You can literally do this on a post-it note, right? We're just going to flip it, get a new post-it note, write the desired state, the desired results, the desired beliefs that we want to hold, rip up or burn the negative. And that's just a quick example of how you can use tools like this in a little modality specifically to help you reframe that. So
Mhm.
that's something that we would use in a coaching session as we notice that a client is perhaps coming up with something that we're recognizing as a limiting belief.
Hmm. That's great. That's great.
Destroying limiting beliefs, they're big ones, right? Anytime you say I can't is a program.
Yeah.
So being aware of it is the first step. So anytime you say, oh, I can't do that, well, what if you could? And
Hmm.
it causes us to just pause. So questioning our thoughts is a big first step. So I can't do that. One of my coaches years ago, I had a decision to make, and it was one of two things. And I said, well, I can't do that, or I want that. And he said, well, how do you have both? So it's just creating an idea in my mind of abundance. It's
Right.
not one or the other. That's a scarcity mindset.
Right.
So how do we shift from scarcity to abundance? Why can't I have both? And by just putting that thought out there, well, if I could, I have to do. What would it look like? A lot of times, money is the reason we don't do things. We're literally living this right now. We have an opportunity to bring on a coach who has shown up in our world. We've talked to them a few times, and we know from a systems perspective, it's exactly what we need. And it wasn't in the budget, not the right time. And it's the money's the money. I get it, but it's really all this scarcity is showing up right now for us. We just talked about this. This is how we're living through this. I know we have to do this.
Hmm.
And I also know when I make the decision and doing it. So when you get fearful of anything, decide and just pretend in your mind, I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
And you notice the minute you make a decision, you get into flow. You feel better about it, and now you start to look for ways to make it happen, ways to achieve what you're moving forward to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just being aware, Curtis, it's so important to notice when you stop yourself, when limiting beliefs show up, is when you stop yourself from doing something you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. And just like you were saying too, how if you are in a situation and you have this scarcity mindset, you may think you don't have the time or the resources. And yeah, everyone has these challenges, but just like you said, making that decision and making it because, and if you, like you had also mentioned before, kind of, if you know what your core values are, and if you know who you are and what is driving you forward, then that helps to kind of create some momentum all by itself, right? Because it's, you're doing what you would do if you had a choice, so just do it anyway. Right?
Right. That's it. That's it. That's it. And we get the hardest decisions are the ones at the outer limit of our comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we'll either do one of two things. We'll do it anyway and just the hell with it and do it, or we recede back and we wait for a better time. We wait till we have more money. We
Yeah.
wait for whatever the reason is that's stopping us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like just noticing this, it shows up in our lives. It shows up in our clients' lives all the time. So as we model it for ourselves, it makes it easier to help other people go through it and understand that, hey, you're not alone. Like I've been through this so many times in my life. When I walked away from a career, the only career I'd ever been in for 30, 35 years or 32 years at that point. I didn't know anything else. This is what I did. I was a real estate agent, a real estate team, office manager, business owner in real estate. And I literally walked away, sold all my shares because I was confident in myself. So I knew I was going to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has that
Mhm.
when you look for it. So
Right.
if you go back and look at your identity, look at where you have confidence in life, decisions you've made that have worked out, you start to realize that, you know what, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so true, so true. And it's interesting how people sometimes, or oftentimes, it seems like I'm seeing that they will discount their experience and they'll discount their own knowledge and their own wisdom when it's time to make a big decision and to move into a space that they're not familiar with. And I actually can relate to this as well personally too. I did something quite similar leaving corporate. I was in banking for the longest time and left that. And my wife also did the same thing. And it's interesting because when we are having this conversation, this internal dialogue is going on, and we're going, I want to do something completely different because that's what I'm interested in, but I don't know anything about it. And so I should probably stick with what I know because I at least feel like I've got the skills to progress in this, but I'm not really happy. So I want to, but the interesting thing to me is that I feel that no matter what your experience is, it's a combination of how you're able to tap in to that knowledge, no matter what it is, and also be able to feel that drive within yourself that is pushing you into the direction that you would like to go. Because when you have that understanding of who you want to further develop into, and you have that drive coming from inside, it helps you kind of tune into the experiences that actually are relevant, that perhaps you're completely discounting because you're thinking, I'm starting all over. And it's like, no, that's actually not true, right?
Yeah.
And it's that
So true.
it's that comfort zone piece though, right? Like we're almost like you were mentioning this earlier, Curtis, that we're almost trained in a way and brought up that we have to follow a certain path. So already not following that path and not following what we're told to do feels like that's outside of our comfort zone. That feels wrong to some people in a way. So that's when it's great to get a coach or some support to help you break through that, because you are doing something that perhaps you haven't done before. And that's going to feel, it's uncomfortable. I don't think it's a bad feeling. I do think it's just uncomfortable, but a lot of us aren't used to putting ourselves in positions to feel like that in the first place.
Right. Right. And it's there's that, I guess, that kind of ancient, back in the times where it was dangerous to get out of your comfort zone when, it was life or death, that kind of feeling is still there. So that just kind of learning to live with that and learning to push forward, even though, right? Because it's definitely overemphasizing. It's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to survive, and it's like, no, it's not like that anymore. Really, this might just be different. It might be a challenge, but no one's going to die. It's just it's just another opportunity to discover ourselves further and to learn along the way. So. Yeah.
Well, it takes a lot, Curtis. You did it, right? You and your wife did it, and Jacklyn and I have done it, where you walk away and follow that inner feeling.
Yeah.
And it takes confidence. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And that's the identity. We tap into that and realize you do it in one thing, you can do it in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it's never going to be as bad as our mind, that monkey mind will create for us. And we were on a coaching call a couple of weeks ago, and it was pointed out that so many times you say what you want, and then almost instantly your own mind will tell you all the reasons why you can't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we start out with this ounce of inspiration and then shut it down as fast as it came out.
Yeah.
So using and having support, having the right environment, right partners, mentors, coaches, having systems to follow makes it easier to understand that you're not alone and everybody goes through this.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then you start to really, like, nobody can ever take it away from you that you left what you had, your old identity, and walked into this new life.
Hmm.
And there, you probably couldn't be paid enough money to go back to what you did in the past,
Right. Right.
right? And now you realize, well, it's not about the money, it's about my happiness and
Mm.
where am I going to be fulfilled and where's my passion and how can I make a bigger difference.
Yeah.
And that's been the journey, and I think everyone is on it in a way. Maybe they're not aware of it, maybe they don't know how to get unstuck, but I really do feel like we have to grow. Like, it's just human nature, we have to grow and develop.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah, and it's what you were saying earlier too, just about having, the courage to make the decision. It's I think a lot of people, like you also mentioned this too, like waiting for the right time. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, I don't know enough about this to make this change. Or, let me save a little bit more money first, or let me learn this other skill. Let me do some more research, and then that whole idea that you were saying as well before, that it's if we stop thinking of it as an either or and think of it as and also perhaps we
Mhm.
can actually do both, right? We can actually start making that transition while we're starting to build up the resources and the knowledge, and actually taking some action, right? To get on that path that we really want to be on. So it doesn't have to be a it's all right, out with the old and in with the new. It can be, there could be some gradation there, right? So
That's right.
that escapes people sometimes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to live in that world. It's one way or the highway. Go.
Right, right.
And I haven't always thought things through. In a way, it's worked out, and I've learned a lot from it when I look back. Right, just making those decisions, it helps you become resilient and realize you're going to figure it out.
Yeah,
You're going to figure it out.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and there is never the right time, right? There's never. I mean, we
Oh,
think back on all the decisions that we've made. Anything that was significant or anything that had real meaning. Yeah, there's a little bit of a leap of faith there. You can see one step, you can't see the staircase, but okay, my foot's going to land there. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I'll trust that I'm going in the direction that I plan for myself, and I'll start to see the steps as they become, as the fog clears, as we take one
ah,
step at a time. And that's so important. So that, like you said, this be do have movement, I think is so critical. And I love one of the things I love about it's not, I think we had talked about before, I had learned, and what had referred to as the be do have mindset. But what I love about the be do have movement is that word movement. I'm a huge fan of Rich Roll. He has his own podcast. And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, mood follows movement. And I love
mm,
that be do have movement. You may not always be in the mood to do or to be performing your best, or to even to be doing what is the right thing, what you should, which not should, but what you want to be doing, what you wish to be doing, what you're going to grow from. But once you start moving, then you start to get that momentum and you feel better because you know you're doing what you should be doing. So that's why I really love the Be Do Have movement, because it incorporates that. And to me, it was just so significant because I was like, yes, and you have to keep the move to, actualize this. So I just thought that was brilliant.
And it's true that it's
Guys,
all a cycle, right? Like our lives are
yeah.
a journey through different cycles. So even when we get to that next level, and that next level, that definition is different for everybody, there's always more that we can grow to next. So
Yeah,
that's why it sort of encompasses all of that, of course, in our business name there. But it's that idea that, yes, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly growing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Curtis, the idea of the Be Do Have movement, I've been thinking about it. When I left my previous world, I took 6 months off and just I needed to decompress. I've been so many years all out. And in that decompression is after 2, 3 months, I started to think, and that's when Jacklyn was really helping me build out the foundation, the marketing. So all these things start to open up. And then I started thinking, okay, what am I going to name this company?
Yeah,
And asking myself that over and over, being attached to the Be Do Have process I had understood from my many, many years in business. And then it was like a flash, like movement.
yeah,
And it's like, that's it. And as soon as I said it to myself out loud, it's like, that's it. I just knew that it just completed the process.
yeah,
So I appreciate you noticing that and feeling that because you do, like, we can think about all this, you can imagine, but at some point in time, it's moving forward and getting into movement with new ideas, new actions, new mindset, new beliefs, new attitudes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, so true, so true. So, yeah, so the Be Do Have movement, can you, both of you, I'd love to hear both of your perspectives just in terms of the offering of the Be Do Have movement. I know you've got a lot of different things. You've got programs, you've got membership, you've got coaching, you've got so many things. And I was just wondering if perhaps you could both share a little bit about what people can expect in terms of being uh, uh, what they can expect to learn, or not to learn, but to become, what's the word that I'm looking for, to become exposed to through the Be Do Have movement and everything that you have to offer.
So we have a few different variations and offerings, and we have a membership that's really great with this. It's actually called the Momentum membership. And what we formulated this on is how can we help people get that clarity, like we talked about at the beginning of this, right? In terms of what do you want in the first place? Who do you want to be in the first place? And how can we support that mindset and the shifts that need to happen so that month to month we can have a community of people going through this process together? So that's a fantastic starting point. And then, of course, there's the private, I do life coaching. Jamie does that business coaching side of things, where that's really connected to the nitty gritty of what someone's directly going through on a day-to-day basis. So that's a great approach because we get to get really close with our clients because we're moving through exactly what they're experiencing, what they need at that point and at that time.
And then we're literally right now going to be rolling it out in October. We've created a transformational group-based program. So we're going to be going through with a group of 25 people, loving the community piece because we can learn together when others are going through the same process. We don't have to teach everything. We learn so much through our growth from our clients and watching them grow. So we're rolling out a brand new transformational program based on this Be Do Have mindset, this Be Do Have movement. So how do we take and help them get clear on exactly where they want to go, understand who they are. So once we understand who we are, we can then move forward using our strengths. That's important. So we don't have to grow our weaknesses. Why don't we just manage our weaknesses and live in our strengths? So we help them get clear on that, define the direction. Where do you see yourself in a year from now? And we'll break it down in 90 days because the program will be 90 days based on this concept. You're setting the goal. We're going to stretch. We always stretch people beyond what they think is possible because we're not going to let limiting beliefs stop them. And as a result of that, we help everyone create a strategic plan. So they'll create their own strategic plan, and then we'll have built-in accountability and support and encouragement from the other members going through the program. And then basically we're going to talk habits come out. Curtis, you know that our habits always get exposed, right? We all know what we should be doing. We're probably not doing what we know we should do. And if we did that, like we'd have the goal we wanted. Can imagine that. And so helping them destroy these limiting beliefs. Like we have to crush this stuff. And when we can crush it together, we can work on optimizing our environment. So let's protect the membership this group rather will be all about getting clear and protecting our mental environment.
Yeah.
And then we have our physical environment, and then let's get that fixed up as well. And then ultimately mastering our emotions.
Right.
So, this is an emotional journey. We're human beings, right? So our emotions go up or down, and it's easy to do things and make decisions when you're on a roll. It's when you're in the trenches, not feeling very good and beat up, that we need that support.
Yeah.
So this process over 90 days, what we envision is people are going to be so pumped up being in a community of like-minded individuals, various industries that are striving to live their biggest and best life in 90 days. And imagine turning an annual income into a 90-day income, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe that's possible. We've had clients do it. So if that's what you want, like, do it. Let's commit to it. Let's help you do it. So it's really going to be transformational. And this is something we're really excited about now that we're rolling out.
That's fantastic. I think what you were saying just from the beginning about getting, figuring out, spending some time with the client, understanding what they want, who they want to become. This is a process that everybody should be going through, right? This is something that it's an exercise that I think everyone should be doing on some sort of routine basis and checking in with themselves. But the fact that you have both created this structure and this environment where you've got not only an opportunity to explore that and to kind of break down those walls that, it's obvious that oftentimes we're the easiest person to trick, right? We're the easiest person to tell we think we know it all. We think we've got it figured out. We think we don't do these things and we've got all the great habits. But then when you get this opportunity to sit down with people in a life coaching session or in this safe, healthy community that you've created, you realize that one, you're not seeing everything that you thought. Two, you probably could be doing some things a little bit differently. And three, there are so many other people who are going through these same struggles. So, and that community piece, I think, is so huge because so many people are out there feeling as if they're the only ones going through some of these struggles and no one can understand and no one can relate because it's so different. But by providing this healthy, non-judgmental space that you're providing, you're giving everyone an opportunity to see it's okay, first of all, right? And you're not the only one. So, it sounds like just a beautiful space to explore yourself in and to learn more about what has been holding you back that you have not been aware of. We're all living with blinders to some extent, and you have, it sounds like a great structure in place to really help individuals and communities really start to take those blinders off and to be a bit more objective and to not be so hard on themselves as well, right? To actually, as you were saying before, to actually surrender, right? And to just accept and not deny where you are, but not let that be a reason for not moving forward. It should give you just a ground to step on, right? So I think that's fantastic. I love what you guys are both doing. I think this is so great.
Appreciate it, Curtis.
So
we actually do have, Jacklyn, a program. Sorry to cut you off, Curtis. We have a program. You said something that we should be doing this regularly. We have a digital program, Focus Made Easy, and it's designed every 90 days to do exactly this in 4 stages.
Great.
So to literally, you can do it and go through it every 90 days.
Right.
And I know when I do it, like, I don't hit all my goals every 90 days.
Yeah.
Sometimes some of them don't even get out of the gate. And I've learned to forgive myself instead of beat myself up, and priorities change. Sometimes I set a goal and then 90 days from now, I realize I don't even want that anymore. It wasn't even that important. That's obviously why I didn't even start or complete it.
Yeah.
So every 90 days is so important. The rhythm of life, the seasons, like Mother Nature's got this figured out. So if we follow the flow, it just makes life, I find it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. I'm sorry, Jacqueline, did you want to add something to that?
I was just going to say, it's really that movement piece, right? Like as we shift our identity, we're going to step into different levels, and it might not be what we initially planned for, but it's just growth. That's all we're looking for here, right? So we've really set up these systems to help people think bigger, yes, and then take action based on who they want to be.
Yeah.
So it's starting. It's that simple sometimes, just to get in and around people that are going to support you.
Yeah.
That's also a big deal with this, but it's just get started, take one step in front of the other, and
Yeah.
just know that we're all capable of, like I said earlier, right, creating that change and really just to take inspired action forward.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, yeah, 90 days, these intervals. I think sometimes what people are afraid of when they're trying to hold themselves accountable is they want to avoid that. It's like that quarterly meeting that you don't want to go to. It's like, I know we're supposed to have this stuff done, and sorry, we're behind schedule on this, and so it can be intimidating for some people. But I think, as you both pointed out, it's about getting started. It's about putting down what you believe are the things that matter to you and taking steps towards them. And in 90 days, you could, like you were mentioned, Jamie, you could look, and the first thing that may come to your mind is, oh, I didn't finish this. Oh, here we go again. I'm not meeting my goals. I'm not completing these things that I said I was going to do. But there's could be so much more truth to what you were saying about priorities changing, and we evolve, we continue to grow, we continue to learn more about what we feel is the direction we should be going into, and we learn along the way things that can also impact our priorities too. So it's great that you guys have this structure. I think it's wonderful. And I think that for anyone who's listening and or watching this and thinking of this as something that they should avoid because they don't want to, anyone shining the light on where they've come up short, to not think of it that way, because we're always going to come up short, but there's always going to be something to learn in the process, and there's always going to be an opportunity to better understand ourselves. So as we continue to grow and set new priorities for ourselves, we're going to figure out, based on what we're seeing and what we're reviewing, where we can make change, what is no longer as important as we thought it was, like you said, Jamie, and maybe what is more important. And then, like you said, Jacqueline, what's the next step we can take towards that? How can we start to get movement and start to move forward? So I think that's a great system. And I just think that it's going to be so helpful for so many people. So yeah, I know a lot of people are going to find a lot of value in it.
Appreciate it so much. And as you were sharing that, Curtis, I was thinking of the mountaintop. We're in the valley, right? We're charting our path and we're looking at the mountaintop and we want to get there.
Yeah.
And then you work your way there over a period of time, 6 months, 90 days, a year, you get to that top of the mountain and you celebrate it. And then you realize there's another mountaintop. And that's a mountain range. And that's just what you could see from where you were. And as you get to that next one, you start to see things different. And
Yeah.
that's why goals change.
Yeah.
We change, right? Perspective changes. And like I said, I've beat myself up so much over the years because I deemed things to be a failure or I didn't get there and I should have, and I'd compare myself to others. And the minute I stopped all that and realized like the person I need to worry about is the one in the mirror and that's it.
Yeah.
And every day I'm going to strive to take a step forward and just keep growing and becoming more. If everyone did that, I think a lot of people would be really happy. And
Yeah.
we could you start to see identities change and people change. And then it's a ripple effect. Like once you've started this, it's a ripple effect and people change around you and you impact so many other people. And it's just an incredible way to live.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to make sure that everyone listening and watching knows exactly where to find the Be to Have movement. So, where would you like our listeners and viewers today to go and to learn more about how they can get involved in the Be to Have movement, so that they can start to take those steps to further improve themselves?
We always love to connect with everyone. So on social, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, we're at Be Do Have Movement. And on our website, BeDoHaveMovement.com, we've talked a lot today about what you want next, what that next direction is, what that next goal is. We do have a few free resources on there that are incredible to check out with that. And one I did want to highlight is the self-discovery quiz. So a big point to understanding where you want to go next is knowing who you are now. And when you do this quiz, you get a personalized, customized report completely based on your personality, your strengths, and your opportunities. So we always recommend checking that out. There's a ton of value in there.
Wonderful. Well, I'll be sure to share all of the links and all of the information so that everyone knows exactly where to go. And that self-discovery quiz sounds perfect for me as well. I'm going to take it. Everyone should take it. I mean, anyone who is not taking this opportunity to for free learn more about themselves, definitely this is an opportunity that I think everyone should take advantage of. I mean, it's a free resource, and like you mentioned, there's additional free resources on the website as well. But everyone definitely visit BeDoHaveMovement.com, and also I'm going to put information on all the other wonderful ways that we can that people can follow everything that you're up to as well. And before we leave, before we end this interview, I definitely want we usually end my episodes with a challenge, and it's not as it's not it's fun.
Not as threatening.
It's not a challenge. It's a fun challenge. I should change that because I have seen people just kind of go, "What do you mean?" So it's a good thing. So I would just like to give you both the opportunity to share what you think would be something that you would recommend that people in our audience today. What step could they take today to get closer to discovering who they are and what improved version of themselves they are striving to become? What would be some advice that you might be able to give to our audience? And Jacklyn, maybe we'll start with you and then go to Jamie.
Of course.
Awesome.
A great one that I love to share for this is, and it's free, journaling. Like figuring out who you are, what you like, and how you think. That's a skill. Like creating that awareness is a skill. And a great way to do that is just to start to write. And if writing isn't your thing, grab your phone. You can do voice notes. I've even done like videos of myself. So video journaling. But anytime you're going through something or you're wanting to figure out and strengthen your intuition and your awareness, start talking to yourself. It sounds sort of silly to do, but it's the easiest way to begin to understand where you're at right now, and then potentially where you want to go next, or what areas potentially aren't feeling good for you as well.
That's excellent.
That would be my tip for that one.
Thank you for that. That's great advice. Thank you.
Journaling's very powerful. For me, what came to mind is if time, and for everybody, ask yourself, it doesn't matter where you are. If time and money wasn't an option, what would you be doing?
Right.
How would you spend your days?
Right.
And just start to let that permeate and settle. If it's doing what you're doing, how do you get better at it? How do you take it to that next level? If it's not, let's not judge it. What would you do?
Right.
So just being open to asking yourself questions and listen to that inner guidance, that inner feeling, that intuition, because it will guide you. We all have it. And I didn't listen to it for many, many years. And the minute I did, I became happier. I became more fulfilled. And I started to follow my path. So listen to that inner voice. It will guide you.
That sounds like fantastic advice as well. Thank you both so much for sharing that. And thanks again for making the time today. I know it's all, as we were saying before, everybody getting coordinated for this interview. This is the first time I've done an interview with three of us. This has been a lot of fun. And thank you so much for being guests on the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think our audience did as well.
Thank you for having us for this.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Manifest Your Greatness podcast. If you liked what we've explored on this episode, then you'll love the Manifest Your Greatness coaching program. The Manifest Your Greatness coaching program is uniquely tailored to help support you on your journey to become the absolute best version of yourself. So if you are committed to taking the steps required to significantly and permanently level up in any area of your life, visit manifestyourgreatness.com/contact. Again, that's manifestyourgreatness.com/contact and schedule your free consultation call today. Talk soon.